Hello, and I still have not gotten my hair cut. I am Dustin DaHusky. Let's have a bit of a pandemic talk. A talk. Sure. So, as we all know, 2020 is the canceled year. It's also an election year. And pandemic. Oh, yeah, this year sucks. And you know what sucks? There's no meets and there's no cons. But obviously, I hate to say it, not a bad thing. People are kept safe. They stay at home. At the end of the day, as much as we would all love to go to a con, as much as we all love to go to an indoor meet, this is for a better good for the time being. It's not going to be forever, I guarantee that. Spanish influenza lasted 10 years. No, not 10 years, sorry. 2 years. Oh, God, 10 years. 10 years pandemic. Ugh. I haven't even actually had a beer. You know what? Booze. Brought to you by Hams. So, 2020 is becoming the year of cancel. Everything canceled. Sports canceled. Music festivals canceled. And literally anything that involves a group of people in some degree, shape, or form formally canceled. There's still groups that still happen at bars. There's still things that happen behind the government's back because, you know what, people get stupid, so they do it anyway. Fine. But for the most part, a lot of events that abide by the law and abide by common sense, at this point, postponed till next year, or will be brought back until further notice. Okay, you know what? Makes sense. It's a pandemic. We don't want people to get sick. You know, that's huge responsibility. Where you have 100 people show up to, let's say, a fur meet, let's say, because there are fur meets that do exist out there that, you know, have about 100 people, which is pretty fantastic if you ask me. But imagine if one person who didn't know who had COVID-19 and walked around, although at this point, we're all wearing masks, but some businesses I noticed don't enforce it. Yeah, there is a note on the door saying, hey, you need to wear a mask. And about 98% of the people I end up seeing at a store do wear a mask. Okay, cool. All right. So a lot of people got that memo. Then there's that 2%. That 2% that don't. And oddly enough, they get let in. All right. It's 2%. It's not 3%, but 2%. That's still 2% too many, but you're going to find morons out there. They could be spreading it. We don't know. They touch what they touch, and we touch what they touch at a supermarket or in a building. You touch a specific spot where someone else who is probably positive with COVID touches a certain part of a door that doesn't get wiped down. You touch it, and then through contact, I guess how it happens, I don't know. Somehow you get it, you go to a fur meet. If you wear a mask, okay, it's not so bad. You still shouldn't know. You should still know how you're feeling. But if you're not sure, you should stay home, which a lot of people should stay home. But that's a lot of risk. That's a lot of responsibility on those that plan a meet, that those that plan a convention must understand. And there's been some people have come to me too over this past year asked me if it was a good idea to run a meet. And I always say, well, it depends on a lot. If it's inside, that gets pretty risky. Whereas if you're outside, if there's a lot of wind, it's breezy, a lot of particles don't stay in the air in the same spot for that long. If you keep your distance from people, even 10 feet away, they say it lasts 36 hours in the air. If you're outside, air particles are moving all the time, so I really highly doubt that. Inside a building, yes. That's why you need to check your HVAC filters in your house, building, whatever. They should be replaced every 6 months. When I worked in school districts, we replaced them every year, and they were nasty. Full of crap. Anyway. Okay, alright, I'm still within time. I still don't think it's a good moment right now to consider cons and meets to come back. We're still not even through first wave of this in this country. The rest of the world have at least figured out a plan. And they have it better handled. Yeah, or they have smaller populations. Yeah, well, they still were able to take care of it a lot better than we did. So on that note, yeah, we still need to do a bit better. We're getting there, but we still need a little bit more to help keep containment or spread. Pretty much to contain the spread. There we go. They say on Twitter that, they still hear people talking about fur meets, about how they want to bring them back. And no, you shouldn't. 2020 is a gone year. You're not bringing it back. I'm sorry. If you're brand new furry, you're just brand new into this fandom, the fall of 2019, missed all on out of all the cons, or even 2020, you just discovered the fandom. Welcome. Unfortunately, you just joined at a really crappy time because there's really no meets to experience your local community. There's no cons that you can go see a more broader spectrum or broader view of either national or international communities come together at cons. Yeah. The only thing you can really do is interaction online. And you know what? You can still enjoy furry online. And if you've been in the fandom for any number of years, you know people, feel free to hit them up, talk to them, say hello. You have friends, you want to stay in contact with them because you don't do anything else, because you're a good furry, because you're staying at home, you put your mask over your snoot, and you wash your beans. It's perfectly okay to actually socialize. The idea is to do it safely. The idea is to not be in a room with no ventilation. Of course, you should know how you're feeling. If you feel like you may be coming down with something, obviously don't bother. Just stay home. Wait a good week, wait a good 2 weeks before you know that you feel okay. But it's not the worst idea to say hello to a friend in person, so as long as you do it safely outside. If it's inside, cover your snoots in a well-ventilated room, just so that air particles don't stay in the same spot for hours on end. Cough in your sleeve, but then again, that's common practice. Everyone should know how to do that. But here's my take on what I see what's going to happen. They say there is going to be a vaccine this fall, even if there is. If one country, let's say one country out there that actually came up with a vaccine, you know what's going to happen? They're only going to be producing for their own citizens in that country. It may be months before, the next bidder, the next highest bidder is going to get a slot in their production facilities for this vaccine. And it may take months before it even gets to a country, another country outside of that country. And then you've got people waiting in line who would like to have that vaccine first. So now you have a waiting list on top of a waiting list to be frank, even a vaccine comes out tomorrow, we won't all get we won't get vaccinated until next year. Highly doubt it that by the end of 2020 into 2021, things are all going to be great. And I'm an optimist, and how I see things, we're in this for another year at most. 2 years at the very, very most, or at least a year at the least, I should say. Which a year is coming up soon in the next 4 months, but a year from now, we're still at least dealing with it, but we're hopefully on the way to a good solution. And on that solution, or 2022, that's when we can feel, okay, we can get back to life as we used to know it. Some things aren't going to come back. Some things will come back. Social events will certainly come back, because you know what? Human beings are social creatures. Yes, furries are very social creatures. So you know what? We like social interaction. So you know what? Festivals, cons, meets, whatnot, they're all going to come back. It's going to take some time. Be patient. Visit friends. Call friends a lot. Call friends on Zoom or Discord or Skype. I think we're going to be in it for quite some time, and if you know someone who's going to run a fur meet, please tell them no. Please tell them, please ask them, are they willing to accept all responsibility, what happens afterwards? Ask them if they're going to write down every person's name, and if someone says that they may have symptoms or have tested positive, if 40 furs show up to a fur meet, are they responsible enough to the idea that they're going to contact 40 people to get tested because one person tested positive? That is a lot of responsibility to dump on 1 or 2 or 3 people. Normally, most fur meets are run by 1 or 2 people. Sometimes a small team, which helps depending on what type of meet, how big the meet is, but you know, meets are all unique in their own way, like furries, so we're special. But frankly, I would not allow any meet around here to run unless we know things are on the up, which again is going to be a long time. Say no to meets, say no to cons, even if, and again, I'm not a pessimist, I'm quite the optimist. But even back this spring, I knew MFF was never going to happen. Called it back in March or April, and they canceled because, you know what, it's the thing to do. There probably is hotel contracts that they must do anyway just to make sure they don't get in trouble. So there's probably that involved internally, but people say, well, I hope MFF was going to happen. It's wishful thinking. Yeah, I would love to go, but the problem is it wasn't. It couldn't. Because if the Corvette National or the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals at the same convention center at the same hotel, same location, gets canceled 2 weeks before MFF, I immediately knew MFF ain't gonna happen. It's just sad. But that's the reality we're living in now, and we have to face that like full square right there. Be patient. Cons will come back. Meets will come back. And meet organizers. I know that as a meet organizer myself, there is tradition involved when you want to continue a meet. Oh, you want to keep the spirit up. You know what? Even I understood. To keep the spirit up in a town like this is also putting people at risk of losing spirit. In the worst ways, too. Mortally, in the worst ways. As much as it sucks, I enjoy running meets. Had to cancel a few myself, and others had to as well. We have to keep going with that. It's not just this year, and it's probably not just the first half of next year, but the second half of next year of 2021, we may still have to cancel events for the foreseeable future. And I would probably only go to meets with a small sub 10 number amount of people outside. I would not want to be caught inside a room with that many people. But a con, I probably won't be going to a con maybe until 2022 at the latest. At that point, I would really hope things get screwed up, because then that's when I start to lose patience. I've never actually missed a convention or any conventions I've been to, or at least have never had a year I didn't go to a convention. I've been to First Squared this year, so I've been to one con this year, which is fortunate because most people this year haven't gotten to a first con. This is my first year since 2010, or going into next year, that I doubt any conventions are going to happen, and if they will, they're going to get canceled again, get postponed till the next year due to hotel contracts. And it's going to be 2020 all over again next year. So, I love This needs more beer. I love conventions. I love going to them. I love paneling. I really discovered recently I enjoy doing panels at conventions. So this hurts me even more, because now that once you become a panelist, oh boy, it becomes so much fun. But cons ain't going to happen for a while. Not until we know that this is no longer a risk, because we can't have 11,000 people, 12,000 people. Yeah, 12,000 people for MFF last year. To have that many people show up in one spot, and let's say 10 people are infected, and that spreads for 5 days, that is a lot of people going all around the world. That is the worst thing to feel as a con staff, knowing that your convention infected hundreds or thousands of people because a few people that probably shouldn't show up or just did not know showed up, made other people sick. It's not a fun thing to think about, and it's something I certainly would love to avoid with meets, with cons. You got to be patient. We got to ride this out. If we start diving back into meets and cons again next year, it will ruin someone's time. I hate to see that. I hate to see that we as organizers can't do anything for our communities, but you know what? I've always joked about wanting to do a vacation. Apparently 2020 is my furry vacation from doing anything. Not everything, but nearly everything that I run, I don't have to do, which has gotten me more spare time, which I'll talk about in another video. But just thought I want to talk about cons, meets, the world, pandemic. Be patient. It's going to come back, just not now. So just wash your beans, cover your snoot, and be well, and be safe. Catch you next time, guys.